think I might say a few words about cultivating these factors. And again, I mean, in some ways, you have a retreat and you have a theme, just to kind of hold the structure, something to kind of guide the process a little bit. But your practice is your practice, and you've been at it a while. So it's really valuable to use your time in a way that is beneficial to your development. And of course, if you have questions about how to do that, like that one, that's good. I'm happy to help. And in the reflection on the theme, it might bring something to life in your practice, which can be very useful. I think you have a good sense of where this leads, how to guide yourself deeper. And, in kind of in service to the theme, having something to reflect on around this can be really useful. So just noticing that this 7 factors of enlightenment, this too is a way that the Buddha says things unfold naturally as we go deeper into the Dhamma. So we've talked a lot, and you've heard a lot otherwise as well around cultivating mindfulness. And we've talked a fair bit about investigation, I think, and energy to some degree. You probably have a pretty good understanding of it. Maybe you feel the same way about the rest of them, but just to kind of get a sense of how do you really cultivate piti as an enlightenment factor. And there's kind of a prerequisite, it feels like to me, which is to be happy in our life, more or less. The times when I'm practicing in a situation where I'm really happy, it definitely goes better. And, there are lots of different things that come into the mix that we're relatively more happy or not. And maybe there are things we can do to increase our general sense of happiness. And when we're sitting, when we're intentionally calming the body and the mind, and then the Buddha's instruction is then just notice any joy that's coming up. Or joy can be confusing because of translating pamojja and piti. Both as joy, sometimes sukha also can be translated as joy. So let's talk about the Pali words. So in a number of these places in the suttas where the Buddha talks about this natural unfolding of these characteristics, like you go from virtue to non-regret to pamojja. And pamojja is this sense of well-being or a kind of joy. And the Buddha hasn't included pamojja in the 7 factors of awakening. It feels to me like, that, in that other case, usually it goes from joy, to piti, to passaddhi, to sukha, to samadhi, something like that. And in the 7 factors of awakening, it seems to me like he's kind of stripped it down to more of a bare minimum of factors. So instead of having, pamojja and sukha in there, he's only got piti as a joy factor, leading to samadhi. Piti and passaddhi, which is serenity or tranquility. So the idea is, don't get caught up in which one is it. It's like that whatever joy, whatever happiness, whatever pleasant feeling that's spiritual pleasant feeling can manifest in different ways. You can experience it, let me put it that way. We can experience it in different ways. Sometimes it's something we feel in the body. Sometimes it's more just in the mind. Sometimes it shows up as light or sound. Talk about the sound of silence, or it can be that sound that you hear, but it's not, you're not hearing it like you hear a worldly sound. And also sometimes in meditation and samadhi, you might have a sound, a nimitta, where you're hearing sound, but there's no sound happening around you. It's just coming through your meditation. Anything can happen in meditation, in the mind, like this. So it's like the piti can show up as like sound or feeling or color, light, and it all has this uplift about it. Whatever those, and so you can kind of just notice: is there just a feeling of uplift or a feeling of spiritual happiness or a kind of enthusiasm? And maybe there's some of this, whatever perception we have. The way I think of it is people have strengths in different channels. When there's like a lot of feeling, like Qigong is really what opened up to me that experience of feeling energy, feeling that, like tingling or warmth or, and finding the ability to be able to move energy through the body and all of that. That propriosensitive kind of experience. That's one way. And there's nothing, it's like it's good to not get caught up in, I wish I was a person who could see lights or hear sounds or feel feelings like that. None of that is what's important. What's important is that we find a way to cultivate that joy, that feeling of uplift. Because the feeling of uplift helps us to become more calm. Or maybe we know how to become calm, and that brings a feeling of uplift, or a feeling of, a pleasant, comfortable feeling that is not just worldly feeling. It's not feeling that, is coming from the body. You may feel it in the body, just like you feel emotions in the body, but it's the energy in the body. It's not the body itself. I hope that's clear. So how do you cultivate that uplifted feeling? Well, that's why we have to deal with our desires and greed for worldly things, our sensual pleasures. We have to deal with our dukkha over our attachments. And we don't have to get rid of it all to feel these things, but we do have to have it kind of at bay. Those hindrances need to calm down enough so that we can be in a space of spiritual uplift. And sometimes chanting brings that uplift. I can feel quite a bit of uplift from the spiritual music that I was raised with as a child. And it's like whatever brings that up for you, I would, use it to bring joy to the heart and enjoy the practice. And this is why it's so important to not have our practice be some, task or duty where you need to perform, or, now I have to get up and sit in the morning. It's like if our mind is approaching it like that, it's hard to make the kind of create the kind of environment that's useful for development. So seeing how we can bring kind of uplifted spiritual pleasure to the process. And when we're meditating and we're kind of getting into it and we're starting to feel more pleasure, the Buddha's instruction makes sense. The more we put our attention on that pleasure, the more it develops, the bigger it gets. There are other things that can really help. Being with a lot of other practitioners who are also experiencing that kind of thing. Being in places where there's been a lot of meditation. Sometimes you can walk into a space and you can really feel that kind of vibe. And there's also, when I was living at Amaravati, it was really such a good space to practice developing piti, because there was a big community. They already were there for years, filling that place with spiritual energy. And when you walk into the temple, you can feel it. But the same thing is true in a lot of cathedrals and churches, and so it's like wherever you find, or it happens in your corner where you meditate in your home, you can start to feel the vibes there. And this is why we put things on the shrine that are uplifting too, to kind of start to set that. And that's why the candle lighting and the incense, a lot of times that's a cue to the mind and the body to relax and to really enjoy this time in a spiritual way. So I think all of those things can help, and paying attention to whatever shows up that is a PT-esque thing really helps to develop it. And of course the purpose of PT is to then move into tranquility. And we're all different. Maybe for you it's easy to become tranquil in that way that's more than just like relaxing to go to sleep, but to be able to really let go in the body and really let go in the mind so that it can be very, very calm. So even if one of these factors leading up to samadhi and upekkha aren't very strong, maybe it's because there's more strength in other factors, and there's, it's like, don't get caught up in like, oh, I have to develop this first and then develop that. See what arises and develop what's there. And notice what it is, what the elements are that you can bring in to help you develop that tranquility too. I think the peace and the calm in the body and in the mind is probably pretty easy to relate to. You might wonder, well, what do I do if I have pain? And it depends on the severity of it and the kind of pain, I know, but like last night my stomach was pretty painful. But when I was doing walking meditation, it was like that was really in the background because of the I don't know how to say, the feeling of the spiritual energy of just in the walking meditation and also in the contemplation of the mind. It's almost like, well, this pain doesn't matter. So, you know, those kinds of things can happen, and then you're back to just very much being with the pain is really in your face. And the main thing is to recognize that everything has, that also just all changes. So, you know, to look for the things that are encouraging and don't get caught up in wanting it to be more than it is or feeling bad that it's not. This is why this idea of, you know, regardless of what happens in the meditation, it's good. You just keep working it, moving further in the direction of peace, calm, and then insight arising. And insight can arise at the weirdest times. So, you know, you could just be doing something completely unrelated and it just shows up. I would not have expected the things that really shifted for me last night to have happened in that context. I'm just doing walking meditation because I'm hurting. And you just never know what happens. I hope that's useful. I hope some part of that's useful. Okay. Thank you.